So here, everybody, students, all my students in class, just wanted to tell you that I certainly miss you. Be glad to get back in class and to a normal routine. I won't be able to come back though till next week and probably Tuesday because I found out that when you get on a doctor's orders to stay out, then you have to stay out that amount of time, and that goes through Monday of next week. So anyway, I am feeling a little bit better. Still having a little bit of trouble with my joints, especially in lower leg. But getting there. Had some bad reactions to some of the medications they put me on to try to get the um, vaccine medication out my body. So it's just a number of things going on. But it's just a weird happening, a very unusual happening, a very rare happening. So, as I said before, I don't want to discourage anybody from getting the vaccine shot. It may save your life. So, I don't want to discourage anybody from that. I won't tell you to get it, but I'm not going to tell you not to get it either. But anyway, I will look forward to getting back in class and just finishing out there at Habitat and then building our deck. And shortly thereafter, we'll be building a house. So, that's the real good news. All right, well, we're going to look at Unit 9 architectural plans and building codes and cover chapter 323, or the start of that is chapter 23 in floor plans, and that starts in your textbook on page 194. So we're going to go over just a few things in here in your textbook, so follow along with me if you will. All right, so we talked about before decisions on floor plans, and you want to make sure you pick one that's affordable, no doubt, and meets the style of the market. So you don't just pick out a random plan that you like. If you are a builder, you're one that's going to build a house to sell. You pick out one that is stylish for the market of today. And that's very important because people are used to seeing these type homes, are used to being introduced to these type homes. So these are the type homes that they want. Um, Whether the market made that decision for the people or whether people made that decision for the market, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, pick a floor plan, of course, that's affordable, that's not going to cost you a bunch of money to build and cause you to lose profit, but pick out one that is stylish to the market. You got to decide on things, whether it's a concrete slab, whether it's going to be on a crawl space, meaning that it's on floor joists and girders and rim joists and things like that. And remember, when picking out this, right, at least at right now, at this point, if you were to do it, that material prices are sky high. They're out of this world high. So a concrete slab would probably be more affordable than it would be to do something in wood right now. All these decisions have to go into that. And there's a lot of types of plan views as the chapter talks about in there, and the unit talks about. So when you do a house, does it match the profile, or you decide to build a house of a buyer in today's market? That's another decision that you have to make with a plan or print that you would get. Is it too big, and you price it out of the area that you're building in? In other words, why would you build a $600,000 house when the average mean of affordable housing here in Cumberland County is probably between 150 to 250. That's about the average mean of affordability in Cumberland County, or the best mean of affordability. Not to say some couldn't qualify for more and some would qualify for less, but the mean is, from about 150 to 250. You might could run that up to 300 the way they're giving loans out today. But anyway, it's got to match the profile not only in looks, but it's also got to match the profile of the buyer as far as affordability. So you don't want to overbuild. You certainly don't want to underbuild either, and then have a market where there's less people that are buying that home. So the market right now between 150, 250, even close to 300,000. Then it talks about, as we get into on into the book, it talks about some of the symbols on the prints. And I'm trying to catch up here and tell you what page that is. Let's see. And that is really in floor plan section. And of course, symbols on prints deal with a lot of different things. We talked about door swings, which are very important, whether it be a right hand reverse, left hand reverse. Hopefully you're learning those by now. They're always a little tricky. Um, on page 217 in floor plans, it shows you some pictures of some doors. It doesn't really go into as much detail about right hand or left hand as it just shows what they look like symbols on the print. And so that's mostly what they're talking about there. And in that chapter, there's a lot of different symbols, even for windows, like casement windows, which swing out, bifold doors, which bifold together. It's got an awning window on page 219. And by the way, the awning window, which opens up and is hinged on the upper side, then there's a hopper window, which it doesn't show, which is hinged on the lower side and opens out. It can also open in, but that will be a hopper window. So just wanted to show you that too, since it didn't show you in the book. But anyway, the book's pretty thorough in showing you the symbols and what they look like according to the prints or according to a pictorial view, an elevational view, things of that nature. So it covers it pretty well. Also, other symbols where maybe plumbing's involved. I like the hose bib symbol that I got drawn there. Now, hose bib would more likely you'd find that on the exterior of the house because that would be your outside water spigot or water where your hose attaches to it. It's threaded. But you could also find, hose bibs on hot water tanks. You could find them possibly in laundry rooms. There could be other places that maybe they're not on the outside. They could be on the inside, but their prevalent location, of course, is always on the outside. And there's other symbols such as an attic access known as a scuttle hole that it talks about there on page 222. The hose bib, like we talked about, as it talks about there, I think also on 222. Floor drain, as it shows on page 223. Floor drain, a lot of times where a hot water tank would go, or in laundry room, something like that. The smoke detectors, of course, which have to be located in every sleeping area and outside the vicinity of every sleeping area, and every story, including a working basement and bonus room. That means if you can get down to the basement, and whether you got a laundry room down there or whatever, you still have to have a smoke detector down there because it's usable space. It's maybe not habitable space, but it's usable space. All right. Um, and then electrical symbols. I think that's covered pretty good. And we'll cover this some more in class 2 on page 224. A lot of you are taking blueprint reading right now, so you're getting some of this. I just don't know. You probably won't get enough out of one class. So we'll go over it some more as we go through class. But electrical symbols, we'll go over what a GFI or GFCI is. A ground fault circuit interrupter used mainly where dampness is present, such as bathrooms, garages, carports, kitchens, and exterior. Now they're more than just damp. You know, they count on surge or to cause them to trip at the breaker, and the breaker is on the wall. There's a test and reset button. So it's got its own private, if you will, breaker. Not all the way, it doesn't have to go all the way to the circuit breaker box, and it trips automatically all of those that are on that circuit of GFCIs. But you'll find these in, like we said, bathrooms, garages, carports, kitchens, and exterior. And it protects from a surge of electricity. In other words, if you had a radio sit beside the bathtub, which I hope you would never do that, and it's plugged in, and the radio gets knocked over into the water that you're taking a bath in, well, it sends an immediate surge that would pop that breaker, that private breaker, and you probably would feel an initial shock, but then it should go off after the initial shock. Be enough to get your attention though, for sure. Does not kill you. All right, S3 switch means that a fixture can be controlled or turned off in 2 different locations. S4 would mean it can be turned off in 3 locations. And the fixture itself counts as an actual location, so to speak. All right, WP is a waterproof outlet. That's where a GFCI located on the exterior of the house has a waterproof cover on it, protected from the elements. A duplex convenience outlet is a standard outlet that we're all used to plugging our stuff into, all right? And we're used to seeing in our home. And then a floor outlet, which could be an electrical outlet, can be an outlet flush with the floor where a lamp or something else can be plugged in. And these are convenient for rooms that have very large spaces in them. Sometimes you'll see them in hotels, or motels, or even as you walk into the front area of a large hotel or motel chain where lamps are plugged in and things of that nature into the floor. All right, then you got sections and elevations, which is chapter 24. Just talks about the sections and the elevations looks of prints, and especially if you break them down, you can see a cut elevation where it's just drawn right through the middle of the house or whatever, which is a sectional elevation. It shows you that section of that house where it has been like cut into or cut in that area to show you what's really located right there in that section. So it's pretty neat too. And then we have plot and foundation plans on chapter 25. And of course, we know that a plot plan is important for a lot of different reasons, mainly because it shows where you are putting the home, or you're putting the addition, or you're putting the deck on an existing house. And remember, you always have to have a plot plan before building a new home, but sometimes you'll also have to have a plot plan when building an addition, usually when building an addition. And even sometimes when building a deck, especially if the zoning is real tight, maybe from the left side, the right side, or the rear where you want to put the deck, if the zoning is real tight, remember zoning laws are for every area of the county, whatever county you're building in. And let's say you're in a 10-foot zoning restriction, which means from the left and the right you have to be at least 10 foot off the property line, or from the rear it has to be 10 foot. So if you're in that restriction and building an addition or a deck puts you, let's say, within 5 foot, then that's a violation, and you wouldn't be able to get that permit to be able to build that structure. You could ask for a variance, and if you remember, a variance is something that you get from the zoning department, and you argue your case that you should be able to build that deck or that addition or what have you, and encroach on the property line closer than the zoning code requirement. And sometimes that passes, and sometimes you can do that. But that's what plot plans are important for. You don't want to just start building something. Then a zoning inspector come out there and say, "Did you know you're out of compliance with this? This whole thing's got to be torn down because you're too close to the property line. You should have went through us first." And that's where you can get in trouble, no matter whether it's a deck or an addition or something of that nature. And of course, as we said, you have to have a plot plan to get a building permit. You also have to have a plot plan to get a septic approval. So remember, you have to have, even building addition, you got to have a septic approval if you're adding on a sleeping area. Now, if you've got public sewage, no problem. Public sewage, it doesn't matter if you add on a sleeping area or not, you're fine because everything goes out to the public sewage. But if you got private sewage, which is a septic tank, if you add a sleeping area on, which is a bedroom, what defines a bedroom or sleeping area? You might remember the clothes closet. So if you build a bedroom on, you have to get a new septic approval, which might mean that you have to upgrade the size of the tank, which may mean changing everything about that septic system, which can be very costly, of course, naturally. So pay attention to that. And if anything like that happens, you got to have a plot plan to get a septic approval. Now, you'd also have to have a plot plan if you're building a new house that requires a septic tank, so they can show where the septic tank goes on the lot according to where you're going to put the house. So plot plans are very important, of course. Foundation plans it talks about in the book, it just pretty thorough on that. I won't say anything about that there's some things we need to go over with foundations and stuff like that, and the way, of course, that is normally built, at least around here. And we'll cover all that stuff too, because sometimes the book shows all kind of different areas around the country, and not necessarily are we native to some of these things that it talks about in North Carolina, right? Topography is important. When you build a house or when you put a house on a lot, it should slope away at every corner, on every side, 6 inches for every 10 foot. It can do that. That's possible. I mean, you can grade the land for it to do that, and that's what you want. And I know that's not practiced much around here, but if it were, it would sure save some problems as far as water standing in our homes. I'm not saying it would solve it all, but it sure would save some problems. Anyway, on page 234, it shows you septic tank. Talks about plot plans on 233, shows you some um, topography and the slope lines we talked about on 235, and then it goes into foundations on the next page. So anyway, I think we pretty much, hey, the more you have, the more you know. Chapter 26 goes into building codes and zoning regulations. We've talked about that some in class, so I don't think we need to just reiterate all of that. I do want you to complete the Unit 9 questions at the end of the unit. So if you would please complete the Unit 9 questions, and we'll cover it a little bit more thorough in class later, but complete the Unit 9 questions. I'm going to put an assignment out there. And it looks like I won't be back till Tuesday, but hey, Tuesday's a lot quicker than it was a week ago, so I'm not going to argue too much about that. Hey, I'm just glad that things are going in the right direction for me. Yeah, I'm having some issues still. Yes, I'm still having some problems with some of the medications I'm on to try to get it out of my system, but hey, it's a lot better than it was. So thank God for that, and appreciate the prayers. Appreciate all of you too. I tell you, you are a good class, and I thank you for that. That means the world to me, and I enjoy being your instructor. And I hope to see all of you succeed in everything, whatever it is, and everything you try to do in your life. All right, thank you, and have a good night.